Hey, brothers and sisters. This is a short video about just a few tips to stop yourself constantly getting in that same experience, the same scenario you tend to find yourself in, kind of like go around the roundabout all the time, constantly. Um, so my friends say to me, "How do I stop this?" or "How do I stop this from happening?" or "How do I do this?" and "How do I do that?" And I normally found that the main problems that people have was they tend to think the same thing, act out the same things, say the same things whenever these scenarios or situations would come around. So it's logically gonna you're gonna get the same outcome. So let's say, for an instance, you're having an argument with your partner. You do the same thing. You shout, you get angry, and you storm out. And then you come back, and everything's a bit. There's a bit of tension in the air, and it's not really that nice. And then a couple of weeks later, it's the same scenario, and you find yourself in the same situation again. So you do the same thing, you shout, you rant, you rave, and then you storm out. And you just constantly find yourself in this unhappy kind of like feeling and kind of like moments. Now, the main thing that to do to initially is to stop yourself feeling the way you do and getting the same outcome, which is basically silence on both parts and no communication, and everybody kind of like with big tension in the room. So the best thing to do is when these scenarios. Now that was just an example. Now this is on a baseline across life and emotions and situations. Is rather than reenacting the same thoughts, words, and actions as you always do when this event situation comes around, change it, because if you change it, you're no longer going around that roundabout. You've decided to take a road off it, and you've gone on. Now, one of the main problems people have is that they tend to just keep going around this roundabout. Same issues, same problems, and the way in which they solve and deal with these issues and problems and themselves is exactly the same as they've done in the past. So, by rights, if you're gonna think, do, and say the same things as you did in the past, then in that scenario, the outcome from the past scenario would be the outcome from the future for the present scenario, because you're just bringing in the same experience from the past into the moment and recreating the same outcome. Now, if you want to change this outcome, this constant arguments, negativity, start with your thought. So, in the scenario of the argument with the partner, rather than starting shouting, say, "Okay, I understand what you're saying." Initially, you've changed it there. You haven't gone round and you haven't started shouting and laying down your rights and her wrongs and her rights and your wrongs. It's you've immediately changed your thought process. So when this normally happens, you normally go off the rail, rah, rah, rah. Or this could be the same frustration with bills and just life in general. You go off the rail, rah, 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 your thoughts right, your actions replicating it, and you speak the words. And so whenever you find yourself in these situations, you tend to find that it just reoccurs. It's exactly the same. And then you do the same thing as you did in the past to make that reoccur exactly like you did before. So this is just the video to say, stop. When you stop and you think, you can change the outcome of that experience. Now, this is all life is about, and I've said this in many videos, it's just about soul experience and soul expansion. Soul doesn't want to keep going round and round about experiencing the same stuff, because none of us are grown old, really. So my advice to you in this video is change your thoughts. So when this scenario comes, you do not want to be that car that comes on the road, and then you just go around that roundabout constantly, same scenarios, same situations, and you just find yourself in the same predicaments and stuff. You want to turn off. Nobody wants to go round. Round's boring. You want to move. You want to move forward. You want to go off. So the best way to do that is to change your initial thought, action, and word, so that you're not replicating the same thought, action, and word you used in the past experience, which then is bringing it into the present experience, if you understand what I'm trying to say here. So next time you get frustrated, you have this thing and you find yourself on this roundabout, take a step back, ask you and just change your thoughts. So if like the scenario with the shouting and whatever, immediately rather than ranting and raving, it was a lower down voice, and it was like, okay, I understand. So you haven't shouted, you haven't ranted, you've immediately put out, okay, there's an understanding. So you're no longer on that wheel because you're not shouting, you haven't done the same as what you've done in the past, you've actually changed it. So logically the outcome's going to change because you haven't used the same. So you haven't gone on that roundabout, you've gone off. And then when you go off the roundabout, you're moving forward. So that's what this video is about. It's like, if you find yourself in these scenarios, don't keep going around the roundabout because it gets boring, it gets frustrating, and it gets on your nerves, and it gets on your partner's nerves, don't it? Move forward. That's what life's about. It's not about standing still. Move forward. This is why one gets boredom and stuff when we're not moving forward, is because life is about moving. It's flow. It's rolling and moving. And when we're not doing that, we just create blockages and situations and scenarios and feelings which don't really sit right with us and not really in line with who we truly are. So my advice to you, and I use this too, is next time you're in these scenarios, just change it. Don't replicate the same action, thought and word that you used in the past, because you just create a past experience in the present moment. And the fact that you're watching this and you're probably wanting to change this would tell you that now's the time to kind of like stop going round that roundabout and go off. So that's my short video. Change your thoughts in the shouting. Quick recap in the shouting scenario, rather than shouting, ranting, raving, lower the tone and say, okay, I understand. The second thing for that, the action is, we'll give each other some space. And immediately, you're not on that roundabout, you haven't ranted and raved, you haven't shouted at each other, and you haven't stormed out. It's a whole different scenario. It's the same scenario, but the outcome will be completely different. So just use your thoughts, your words and your actions, and change them. If there's a situation or an experience you find yourself, you come up against quite regularly, and you always do the same thing, and you always get the same outcome, and you're not really best pleased with it, then change it. Completely change it. And I know it's easier said than done, but it really isn't, because naturally, we are pure beings. I've said this in other videos, so change it. So in this scenario, event, situation comes up, change your thought, then change your words, then change your actions. So rather than ranting and raving, shouting at each other, then storming out, the second experience, second time round, it was, hello, okay, I understand there's frustrations there. You then said, I'm going to have time separated. Just by doing those two things, you have changed the experience, the outcome of the experience you're gonna see. So that's just about it. So change your thought again, and I'm going to keep putting this out there. Change your thoughts, your words and your actions. When you put those three together, you create. One love.